Hi there, I'm Trunks from Dragon Ball Z Abridged, and these are the Anime Egotists. You know, in the future, podcasts are a little bit different. They're actually from pods. You know, people trying to hide from the androids and everything. I had a favorite podcast for a while, but it got canceled. By the androids. They got killed by the androids. Don't get killed by the androids!
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, where the League of Villains from Jimmy Neutron don't bother with us.
I don't know. I go out and play golf with them every time. We only make it through 9 holes for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, the lizard guys, Zixtra, Voltron, and T, they seem cool. I'd like to hang out with them. But anyways, my name's Alex, and I don't know if I could eat 20-ish bowls of ramen. That seems like a lot even for me.
I could barely make it through 1. And I'm Richard.
That's horrifying. But anyways, we are back. And the thing is, we like a lot of characters, but we also hate a lot of characters. And sometimes it's a little bit of both.
Exactly. It's all about, I guess, sometimes characters can be really have issues, but still be enjoyable to follow.
That is correct. And even if we don't necessarily know why we like some of these characters, which I seem to have, like, ad nauseum, we have a lot of characters who we both like and dislike, or in some cases, love and hate. Whether they're heroes, villains, side characters, just anything in between.
Exactly. Do you want to start us off this time?
I would love to. So the first character on my list, Majima from Licorice Recoil.
Okay.
Alright, Majima's kind of an odd case. He kind of starts off as the main villain for the series, but it's also kind of revealed later on that he's not nearly as devious as probably the main villain, Yoshimatsu. On the one hand, Majima's kind of cool in the sense of he's really laid back and at times smart and terrifying, but on the other hand, it kind of doesn't work in some cases because Chisato never takes him all that seriously. She could kill him at any moment, but because of her morals, she doesn't do it. At most, she'll injure him. I don't know. At times, he felt compelling because he was actually going out and killing some of the Lycoris members. But at the same time, I don't really know. There's something about him to where if the main character can probably stop you, but just chooses not to stop you permanently, something kind of feels off. Like, he just felt weak in some cases. But at the same time, he did feel like a threat, just not to Chisato, because, like, she's perfect, I guess.
Yeah, that's actually a problem I have with one of my characters that we'll get to shortly, but yeah, I can agree that they kind of develop them, making them look kind of strong, but then they're not even a threat to the main character. It just doesn't make a great villain when that happens.
Yeah. And it's weird because I've talked about Robata before, and he's incompetent in some cases, but he's kind of meant to be. Like, he's a comedic villain. And Yoshimatsu works as a devious villain, Robata works as a comedic one. Majima kind of works, but fails at both. I don't really know how to describe it. I don't know. Maybe it's also just because the only real interactions he has is with the main character. Nobody else really seems to care about this guy one way or the other, but I know that's unpopular because a lot of people like Majima, but he's not my favorite. I don't hate him, but like he's like right in the middle for me. He's conflicting.
That I think kind of makes sense. Again, that's why he's on the list. There are moments that you really enjoy the character, but others that there's just something off about how he's portrayed. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, but anyways, Majima from Licorice Recoil, which I think I've been mispronouncing every time I've talked about this show, but no one's corrected me, so who knows at this point.
Okay. All right. So my first one.
Please go ahead.
So I want to get your. This is another one I kind of want to get your opinion on a lot, but it's Giovanni from Pokemon.
Yeah, no, I
I
understand.
I absolutely love especially the classic uh Johto, Kanto, and Hoenn era where Team Rocket would tell a plan and Meowth would usually voice him and say, like, with the That Giovanni's great. It's the just the way when he's actually on screen, he's always just kind of the man behind the desk. He's wasn't a big, even though he's supposed to be the Viridian City gym leader, he wasn't there for Ash's battle. It's just there's all this stuff. And spoiler alert, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Even by the end of the series, he's just the man behind the desk. I think he's in the Mewtwo Returns special that was in the Johto era. Besides that, he shows up in the Black and White series like twice, and that's it.
Yeah, even outside of the games, I've never really found. Oh, sorry, even outside the anime, I've never really felt myself gravitating that much towards Giovanni. Maybe it's because everybody takes him super seriously, and especially in Pokemon Masters, the game, they kind of write him like a Saturday morning cartoon villain. Every time they stop him, but he always manages to get away, or they let him get away, rather than thinking, hey, yo, let's arrest this guy, let's put this guy in jail, or something like that. I don't know. Oh, it always sort of feels like he's a threat, but then it feels like he's stopped so easily. I don't know. Maybe it's because we've never learned that much about the guy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I mean, he has, as I said, Black and White. He had a few interactions, I think, with Ash and his team and stuff, and then there was the Johto special. Unlike, like, if you think back to, I mean, Maxie, Archie, Cyrus, and all that, and they had like entire arcs throughout the series and had multiple episodes where they were spoiled by Ash and his friends at the time. That doesn't really happen with Giovanni. So, and he's in the series so little besides being, as I said, man behind the desk or on a screen for Team Rocket to talk with. It just doesn't feel like if maybe he had been like arrested in the final season or leading to Team Rocket's disbanding, or just something had happened that caught like for him to be a bigger part in the series.
What if it's a reverse Obito or Toby from Naruto? What if it's a case of, because for Toby, it was this wacky, silly character, but then once you learned more about him, you learned he was actually, like, really terrifying and serious. What if it's the reverse? What if he's really serious, but deep down, it actually is like the boss fantasies? Like, the main thing he wants is a Dawn fan to put stuff in its trunk.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious. It was just like he has no reason to take. He's not really wanting to take over the world. He just wants one of like every Pokemon to be able to like say he has it. He hired a team to catch them all.
And once he's done, it's like, okay, yeah, that's. Wait, you stole some of these Pokemon from actual trainers? Give them back. And we're just like, no, did we waste our lives for nothing? He's like, yes.
Yeah, this, as I said, in the anime, he could have been so much more if he had been in it more, besides just being Meowth's fantasy. And if it was Meowth's fantasy is true, then great. But
yeah, but as we've talked about, I can't fully bring myself to hate him, but that just might be because of Meowth's fantasies. Had it not been for that, I would have been like, why does everybody care about this dude? Why does this the guy who everybody says, oh, this is Ash's dad? Like, I don't care one way or the other. At this point, I don't, because Giovanni just kind of feels like nothing.
yeah, and God, I know that there was that in the 11 episode Want to Be a Pokemon Master, Ash is supposed to meet up with his mom and dad, and when he gets there, his dad's not there.
Yay.
Because everybody's been asking for it for years, so we're never gonna get it.
Yep. All right. So, my next one.
Go right ahead.
All right. I want to get your thoughts on this character because it's going to be a little bit of shocker to learn that I actually do like them in some regards.
Okay.
Rebecca Hawkins from the original Yu-Gi-Oh series.
Okay.
On the one hand, she's really annoying sometimes, especially when it's like when Yugi's grandpa she's like, give back my grandpa's blue eyes, old man. It's like, I can't give it back to you. She gets really annoying about stuff like that, and along with her teddy bear. It also kind of makes me mad that Yugi actually surrenders to her, even though he could have easily won the duel for reasons. On the other hand, though, she's actually a pretty competent duelist at times, especially in the Waking the Dragons arc and Season Five's Grand Grand Prix arc. That's what it's called.
Mhm.
She also ends up becoming a child genius, and I actually kind of like some of the moments where it actually feels like she's doing a lot. And some of her duels are pretty interesting too. But there's a lot of annoyances to get over with this character, and I understand that, but I can't bring myself to fully hate her.
I can agree. She's very hit and miss with this, where her competent moments when it comes to like dueling and being a genius are great, but I think she's supposed to be younger than the rest of the cast by a couple years.
That is correct.
It's just like Yugi looks younger, but he's the same age as Joey, Tristan, and Taya, and all that. So
He hadn't grown 4 feet until like GX, I guess.
yeah, and then I mean, I think in Dark Side of the Dimensions, he's not as tall as Joey and Tristan, but he's taller. He's like Taya's height at that point.
Something like that.
Yeah. And that's without having to use the puzzle to let someone stretch his spine out.
Yeah, apparently somebody gave me a trivia fact that apparently the Pharaoh and Yugi are actually the same height, but I don't. That messes with my head too much.
Well, they have. How could that be? Because when they portray him in the anime, the height absolutely makes no sense then. Because I think when the Pharaoh's in control, he's the same height as Taya, and then uh, when Yugi's in control, he's like a head shorter than her.
I don't know. But back to Rebecca. And like I said, on her crush on Yugi is obnoxious. I will fully give it that. But you know me, as I've said before, for some reason I gravitate towards the characters who it's like, you know what? I like this person and I'm open about it. Do I want them to end up together? Absolutely not. At the same time, though, I don't know. There's too much good and too much bad about Rebecca that I can't completely love her, but I also can't completely hate her.
I can sign on to this. I didn't even think about her because I unfortunately she's for the what I would consider the most popular arcs in the series. She doesn't play the biggest role. She's in kind of the two. She plays mostly a big character in the filler arcs only.
Yeah, and
So
to be fair, a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh is filler. So at times you just kind of have to be like, let me just pick somebody else, because I don't know. We've never talked about her, so that's why I'm like, huh, maybe she'd be interesting. Do I hate her? Sort of. Do I love her? Also, sort of. I don't know. It's complicated.
yeah. Well, do you want me to do my Yu-Gi-Oh characters?
Sure, why not?
Because I combine these two because they're so similar. And it's Rex and Weevil.
Okay.
So let me explain. I like them as characters as the kind of comedic side to everything. I wish that we got to see them a bit more where they're showing off that they are relatively skilled. I mean, they were both, I think, at the start of the series, like region champ and runner up.
Yeah.
So it's like that's really cool. And then of course they're villains in the first season and recurring kind of more comedic, lower ranking villains for throughout the rest of the series. But if they had actually, besides going like, I've got 2 locator cards more than you, I'll bet them if you bet because I'm cheating in this duel. But if they had actually shown like in their duels that they could actually win and do well in these tournaments, not necessarily in the finals, but if we had actually gotten to see them like straight up beating people and proving that, hey, we are competent duelists, then it might feel a bit more. Because I think we even got that with Mako. Doesn't, if I remember correctly, Joey, Tristan, and Taya walk in on Mako bat dueling someone, and then Joey challenges him, I
I
think.
believe so, yes.
So at least we get to see Mako beating someone. We don't get to see that. It's just Weevil cheats in pretty much both tournaments. Rex is kind of eliminated before anything actually happens in the
Yeah.
tournament. So
I'm glad you didn't say Rex cheated because a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh fans seem to think he cheats, but he doesn't. He's a jerk, but he does play fair. I will say I dislike Weevil more than I like him, but that's kind of the point. For some reason, as I've said though, I've always had a soft spot for Rex. Maybe that's just because in the manga and the games he feels a little more human, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, as I said, it's not necessarily. I like them as kind of the comedic villains, but I wish that we, because they're supposed to be, especially at the start, really good duelists. I wish that we had gotten a bit more of that so we could see them as those pretty much as top ranked duelists that they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Plus, I'm kind of surprised we never got a what happens if we fuse our strongest cards moment, despite the fact that dinosaurs and insects, I don't think they go together, but who knows? Maybe I fell asleep during that part in class.
Yeah, they just go back a bit farther, so where it's giant insects in the past before the dinosaurs.
Oh boy, oh boy, that gets complicated. But I understand where you're coming from, but I co-sign for Weevil, but like I said, I like Rex more than probably most people do. I don't know why I like Rex.
As I said, it's just if he had had an actual victory, I don't think he has a victory on screen, does he?
I don't believe so.
So if he had at least had that, just to show like, hey, he's doing well in the regionals, and I mean, they mentioned that he's in the finals against Weevil, but other than that, that's as far as he gets in any tournament ever in the series.
He and Hasselberry would be great friends.
Yeah.
But anyways, I can understand your points.
All right. So your next one?
Oh jeez. Nibutani from Love Chunibyo and Other Delusions.
Okay.
This girl is kind of an anomaly in some cases because on the one hand she starts off as a very friendly like model student who everybody wants to be friends with, but as it's revealed later in the series she ends up being like a huge closet chunibyo. Like she used to practice it a lot but then decided that it got embarrassing. So it turns out her actual personality is she's kind of stuck up. She's kind of stuck up, but I don't know. On the one hand, she does a lot for her friends. Like she, even if it's tough love, it's in the case of, hey, maybe you should ask her how she feels. Maybe you should ask Rika how she feels about this. Or, hey, the way you talked to Yuta wasn't all that nice. Maybe you should find a way to phrase it better and say you're sorry. On the other hand, she also comes across as kind of a busybody and really, really annoying sometimes. So I'm not going to act like the show would be better without her, and I'm not even going to be like, well, maybe if they'd given her a little more to work with. I don't know. It's weird because I want to like Nibutani. I want to fully say, oh, she's a really good character, but I don't know. I look at her and I think to myself, you're probably the most realistic character out of everybody here, but I don't think you and I could be friends. I feel like you and I would not mesh well.
I can kind of understand that. It's I don't know that just the idea of someone hiding that part of them. It's quite a common thing, I think, but I can understand why that character would not necessarily be your favorite.
Yeah, nothing about her is at. I don't know. I don't know. And it's weird because there are other characters who are like extras, I guess, and they're just like, hey, what are you doing being friends with them? You're like so much different, and there are times I kind of think to myself, why is she friends with them? It kind of feels like her problems are not as bad as the rest of these misfits. So what's she sticking around for? I don't know. She's a bizarre character for me. Like I said, I don't know if I like or dislike her at this point. She's basically right in the middle.
Which is perfect for this list because it sounds like it's another one that has moments that are like I can kind of like her, and then others that just she's not worth being that interested in.
Yeah. I feel like if you ever watch the show, you might like her more than me, but who knows at this point? Maybe it'll be even worse.
Yeah, but right now I've started up Soul Eater again to prepare for some other videos in the future. So
Yeah, and I'm done, pretty much done with my Naruto rewatch, so I'm doing the same with Soul Eater. But I'm also watching like shows I've never talked about before on this show, but I they didn't work for this list, so I left them off.
all right, but my next one.
Please go ahead.
All right. So I picked Brooke from One Piece.
Yeah.
When he's he has the unfortunate of being the openly perverted character in the series, always asking to see Nami and Robin's underwear, and those moments really hurt. But I enjoy his fights. I enjoy his goal of wanting to just complete his promise of making it back to Laboon, who's the whale at the start of the red line. So those little moments I like. It's just they do too much with him asking to see women's underwear all
No,
the
no,
time.
no, I agree. And fun fact, Jay Tunes, whatever you want to call him and I actually met Brooks' English voice actor a couple of weeks ago. He's a really cool guy. Hey, but when I hear him talk as Brooke to other people, I'm just like, oh, that's right. He talks about panties a lot. Like, it's kind of weird. It's kind of, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable. But I really do like Brooke when he's not doing that. It's
Mhm.
almost like if you take a perverted character and stop them being perverted, they're actually a lot more interesting. But for some reason, the anime just keeps deciding to do that.
Yeah, and I know there are people that are like that. Not I've never met someone who's that open about it, but
Not
there
anyone
are
I want
people
to be
who,
friends with.
yeah, but there are people who do that, who are into that kind of thing. But as I said, I really, and when he, especially when he does like music and stuff,
Oh, I love
those
his
are,
music.
yeah, it's really fun times whenever that happens. It's just, it always, when he does it, it always makes me feel a little uncomfortable when he mentions that all the different things that he talks about.
I apologize to every woman who's been through something like that on behalf of men and everywhere. But I will say, on the plus side, at least he asks.
Yeah, that's true. That when compared to others that just try to see stuff, he at least asks.
Yeah, I'm trying to make this bet. I'm trying to make this better by thinking it could always be worse, but I don't know how much I'm succeeding. But yeah, I understand with Brooke. He has some great moments, but overall, I understand why there are certain aspects of him that stop him from fully liking him.
Exactly.
All right, my next character,
Go right ahead.
Emil von Strasberg from God Eater.
Okay.
Okay, so you would think this character would be right up my alley, and in some cases, he kind of is. Emil's comes from this royal proper family, and he's one of the God Eaters who fights alongside alongside Hera, Shield, and everyone else. And the thing is, he's very much like a royal knight, but he's a total and utter goofball about it. Like, he'll say stuff like, ah, yes, my friends, we shall keep fighting until we can't fight anymore. Yes, glory to all of us. And everyone's like, what the hell is wrong with this dude? You'd think this character would be perfect for me, but I say this as a credit to God Eater. They do a perfect job of him being super silly like this, and you just want to strangle the guy. But it also shows that he's not willing to abandon his friends. He's willing to fight alongside them. And even if people find him annoying and they'll snap at him, he never considers them like they're not my friends. He says, even if we bicker, we're always going to be friends. It's just he's so obnoxious sometimes with his quote unquote chivalry. You kind of want to smack him around every now and then.
Yeah, I can see that. A lot of animes I've noticed have that kind of proper character that they try to but that go over the top. I'm thinking I've watched a few animes recently that have that kind of character, and it's just like, okay, this is just someone there that's there to just be like, I'm kind of obnoxious about being proper.
Exactly. But like I said, he is a very loyal friend. And there's a part in the game where he says, I'm sorry, I failed. As leader, you may punch me in the face, and you actually get to decide: do I just tell him everything's cool, or do you punch him in the face? Every playthrough, I have to punch him. I'm like, dude, you're great. I appreciate you working hard, but you're so annoying. I gotta get this chance, and you can even get a running start.
Okay.
Yeah, but Emil, is he the most? Do you want to smack him? Do you want to lock him away? Do you want to ignore him? Yeah, but also he's an incredibly loyal, funny, and brave person to the point where you don't want to live without him.
Yeah, it's I can understand, especially when it comes to like a game. Does he have any like moments where he kind of breaks that personality or
Every
anything?
now and then, yes, and it does get noticeably like, oh god, it gets to the point where you kind of want to get out of his way.
Okay, then maybe that might make him a more enjoyable character because a lot of times um just a lot of times they get like either they become super depressed about stuff. I've noticed.
He takes out a ridiculously strong origami pretty much all by himself when he got more serious.
Okay, so I think I could enjoy him. It's again, I can also understand though where he might be a little over the top and annoying.
Yeah, and also in the English version, he's voiced by the person who voices Neji in Naruto, so I can't take Neji seriously anymore. Then again, I think the Rock Lee show already did that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that would be a little weird.
Yeah, but Emil, Emil,
Okay, all right. So my next one,
please.
you may need to help me pronounce the last name of this character because you know the series better than I do.
Okay.
Seki Bronzaza from Black Clover.
Dark Lord Seke, of course.
Seki. Oh, yeah, he's just one of those that he's so incompetent, but he stumbles into everything perfectly. It seems like, at least from my understanding, with because he's like the king treats him as like as like the number one upcoming uh young magic knight. He's can't seem to do anything really for himself. It's just it's such a weird combination, but the incompetence also makes me kind of like I like him, but I also don't like him.
Yeah, even he's basically become a giant meme with the whole everybody thinks, oh, well, Seke's only using 0.05% of his power. That's why everyone's able to take him out. Oh, and there are his cowardly moments, especially early on, do not endear him in the slightest. But it's like I've said before, if a character does something wrong and continuously gets their comeuppance or gets what they deserve, it feels so much easier to deal with. And so far he hasn't had that many moments where he's actually shown he can be brave, but at the same time, he's kind of meant to be treated as a joke. So I'm kind of okay with it.
Yeah, as I said, I'm from where I got to. I think he plays a bigger. He comes up a lot more because he's serving as like the king's guard or something at this point.
Yeah, a little
Um,
bit.
but yeah, it's just one of those. I don't know if he's just. I'm a little worried that he might get overused if I kept with it, but I'm. It's one of those. I like him sometimes because he's a good comedic character that never really succeeds at anything, but then he also I just don't know if I like that he gets everything he wants. It seems like.
I mean, I understand that. I do appreciate that. I don't know. I don't know. Second, he's perfect for this list because I still don't. I'm further ahead than you, and I still don't even know how I feel about Seke.
So yeah, as I said, he's kind of that perfect like and hate, which might be exactly what he's supposed to be. So
Yeah, I think the writer does a good job with him, but I am somewhat. I don't want them to give into the Dark Lord Seke memes, like he actually is the strongest or something. But that just might just be a meme, a stupid meme, but a meme nonetheless.
yeah,
Oh boy, honorable mentions time.
honorable mentions time.
All right, Shuichi Kagaya from Gleipnir.
Okay,
I'm gonna be honest. Maybe it's my fault because I went into the show thinking it was gonna be about this like I thought it was gonna be a good mix of like kind of twisted dark stuff and somewhat humorous stuff. But Shuichi, the main character, he ends up having these powers where he can basically turn into like this wolf mascot thing. He has some good speed and some good power, and ultimately, you know, deep down he's a good person. But ultimately, he's just so cowardly that it kind of ruins him in some cases for me. I know I know that he's kind of meant to be that way, and his partner Claire, who I'm gonna be honest, I don't like Claire in the slightest. But I don't know. I don't know. He feels a little too timid for me, especially for this badass monster who I thought, oh, this is gonna be kind of a cool series, but now I'm just like, I'm not really into any of this. I don't know. I try to like Shuichi, but I get the feeling I dislike him a little more than I like him, but I'm still trying with him.
Yeah, this is another show I heard about but haven't seen much of, and it's sounding like the characters might make it so you don't really want to watch the show, even if it has an interesting premise.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's an honorable mention because I haven't finished the show yet, but I'm at the point where I'm like, I kind of don't think I want to because I don't really like anybody in this show.
Yeah, I've gone through a few of those. I, I don't know. It's one of those, as we talked about in the previous video, where the 3 episode rule can and can't work sometimes, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, I want to finish the show. I want to be like, you know what? I gave the show. It's not really my genre, but I still gave this show a chance. But it's not working, which is weird because I'm watching another relatively serious and dark anime right now. That's not all that comedic, but I'm like, oh man, I'm really enjoying this. I'm actually sad we're recording today because I kind of want to finish this now.
Well, you'll have it perfectly ready for the next episode of whatever we film.
We'll see. But yeah, Shuichi, he has his moments, but overall, he's just like, he's like right in the middle, leaning more towards dislike. But I have to finish the series before I fully declare it.
Yeah, because it could be that he has some really good moments in the last few episodes.
Sure?
All right. So my first honorable mention,
Please go ahead.
Hotaru Haganescu from Demon Slayer. So this is the swordsmith for Tanjiro. Uh, he's got this weird personality where, like, when Tanjiro gets his first sword, it turns black, which is supposedly an unlucky color for demon slayers. They're um, not really able to master their breathing style and stuff. So he gets disappointed because the sword turns black. He's got he's just kind of over the top, because he's all like, every time Tanjiro breaks one of his swords, he tries to attack Tanjiro for breaking one of his what he calls it, like his masterpieces and stuff. Um, in all reality, he's kind of hiding his emotion of feeling like he's a failure for not being able to uh, make a sword that could withstand what Tanjiro needed to go through. So knowing that, and we're currently in an arc that he's actually playing a big part in, it's just we haven't. I'm watching the English dub, so I'm not up to everything yet in it. So there could be a lot like where he's more heavily involved, and it feels, and his character might change and evolve a bit more in this as we learn more about him. Where he is right now, it's just the combination of the over the top personality, but having these feelings. It just kind of, it's in a weird balance where it's like, the over the top's pushing it a little bit, but it's still enjoyable. So it's one of those weird kind of situations.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Even with my, like, I have friends who talk about Demon Slayer relentlessly, and I don't even think they've ever brought up this character before. So maybe it's a similar case for everybody as it is for you, but we also but I guess you won't know until you finish up the series or this
Yeah,
part of it.
yeah, it should hopefully be out in the next. I think there's maybe 4 more episodes this season. I can't remember how many we have.
Yeah. And apparently, from what I've heard, the ending is really good. So hopefully, you get what you want in some regards.
Yeah, as I said, I think I might like him a bit more at the end. It's just or at least at the end of this part, as of right now, he sits in this weird kind of gray area.
Yeah, I can definitely understand why you'd feel that way.
All right. So your next honorable mention?
All right, she's been on a list I've done before, but I don't really feel like I did a great job of explaining it back on that list. So she's an honorable mention here. Kokomu Teruhashi from The Disastrous Life of Psyche K.
Okay.
All right. So, Teruhashi, a very stuck up girl deep down, but on the outside tries to portray this nice, perfect student who gets mad at Psyche for not noticing her in the beginning, but then develops a crush on him. I'm gonna get the bad stuff. No, I'm gonna get the good stuff first. She has some pretty hilarious moments, and she does grow in some cases where she goes from just wanting to manipulate people to still doing that, but at the same time actually admitting these people are my friends, and I actually do like Psyche as opposed to just manipulating him. That's all well and good. On the other hand, she gets so much screen time, and it gets to the point where she gets up really obnoxious. She really starts to get on your nerves to the point where, why is she in this episode? This episode, we just had Terahashi episode a little bit ago. We don't need another one. Not to mention, just I don't know. Like I've said, if a character gets comeuppance, it's cool. But like you said with Seke, it kind of feels like in some cases she gets everything she wants. But the only difference is I feel like Seke is meant to be a little more of a joke, so it kind of works better. She's not unbearable. Like, I wouldn't say the show is better without her. It's just, if you would cut her screen time in like maybe half, I feel like I would have been loving this character, but right now she's right in the middle. I love Terahashi, but I also hate Terahashi.
I can understand that. From what I remember, she did play a very large role in the series, and she's supposed to be kind of that character, but yeah, they're just if from what I remember, they're just sitting there when you were like binging some parts of it. There were long gaps where you wouldn't see some of the other characters, but you would see her like every single part because it was like 5 parts in an episode, if I remember correctly. And she'd be in all 5, with Psyche being the only other one in all 5, and the others might be in 2 of the 5 or something. So it's like, okay, this is a little weird, but especially because she wouldn't be the focus in those.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, she has some moments where I am kind of cracking up at some of the stuff she's saying, but overall, like I said, she's a frustrating character for me who I both love and hate, and honestly, and like I've said before, I don't think her and I would be friends. I feel like we might have beef.
I can see it because she's one of those that she apparently is hard to read except for Psyche because I mean, from what I remember, when we get her internal monologues, they are very like Mean Girl esque, and but she's never putting that out in the world. When she speaks, she's always very sweet and nice to everybody. It seems like, except for God, what's his name? The um, big guy that we always joke about.
Nendo?
Yeah, I think that was the one character she, at least in the first part, she was always mean to.
It felt like she snapped about him in one case, and I'm like, huh, it might be actually interesting to kind of see her snap and kind of lose that aura in some cases, but just like, oh, no. But like I said, like I don't want to be too hard on her because like she doesn't deserve some of the hate she gets, but at the same time she also kind of does. Like I said, she's perfect for this list.
All right, so I picked Soy Phone from Bleach. She's in the first kind of arc that she's introduced, which is the Rescue Rukia arc or Soul Society arc. She's really kind of an interesting one because she has this ability to be a 2-hit kill because her Zanpakuto, if she stabs you with it in its awakened state, it um, if she stabs you in the same place twice, it automatically kills you. So it's a really interesting one, and she fights Yoruichi, who is kind of her master in the past when she was a captain in the Gote 13. The issue I have is that after this, she doesn't play that big a role in that many arcs. And whenever they do filler arcs, she's always seems to be portrayed as being like obsessed with Yoroichi. And it's just kind of, and it's like a stalkery one. And you're, the weird part about this whole relationship is that Yoroichi knows about it and is perfectly fine with it. So it's just, it's a weird balance. And as I said, she seemed so interesting, and she could have been like one of these competent, because she's supposed to be part of the stealth corps and all that. It's one of those that I just feel like she could have been more if she had been brought into the series a bit more, and not necessarily, she could have been in love or interested in Yoroichi, but if it had been portrayed less stalkery.
Yeah, I can understand that. Outside of the initial arc where she appears, does she have any other cool moments or like cool battles or anything?
I know she's part of the fake Karakura town arc where they're trying to defend it against Aizen and the God, what are they? The Espada. But other than that, she's, and she, I guess she plays a part in this Blood War arc, but I haven't gotten to that part in this anime yet. So
Yeah, but I can co-sign. Maybe she's cool, but the stalker stuff does kind of go like, no, no, that's okay.
yeah, because there's, from what I remember in some of the filler arcs, they literally have her like standing behind a wall staring at Yoroichi doing something with the rest of the group, just staring. So
Yeah, but I can co-sign. So my last honorable mention,
go right ahead.
Hitch from Attack on Titan.
Okay.
Do you remember this girl?
Not off the top of my head.
Do you remember Annie, correct?
Yes.
She was part of the police corps with her, and she had like this fluffy looking hair.
It's been, I haven't watched since season 2 was premiering, and that was,
Ah.
I watched season 1, so
Anyways, Hitch is kind of at times a very selfish person because she's part of the police corps and she doesn't want to go out and fight titans. Understandably, she can be really vain and annoying, especially to her teammate Marlowe, who's kind of this. It's, I don't want to say proper, but is very by the book. But he's still a nice guy. She's kind of hard on him to the point it's like, why are you always doing things by the book? And maybe it's because I like Marlowe so much. He seems like a cool guy. But she also has moments where she actually does show some cunningness and actually some bravery with other people. And just the fact of, spoiler alert, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, when Marlowe ends up dying, she actually is legitimately like heartbroken by it. It's just, I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of her, admittedly, but it just seems like there are moments where like she's either really vain and stuck up, or she's showing that she cares for people. And ultimately, like I said, I just don't know one way or the other.
it, yeah, it's, there's a lot of characters from Attack on Titan, thinking back on it, that probably could have been on this list that I both remember liking, but also possibly like disliking aspects of them. So it's been way too long since I watched any Attack on Titan, because it was back during season 1. I haven't even seen all of season 2, and I know they're on like part 7 of season 4 now.
Something like that. Heck, even in Attack on Titan Junior High, I can't really get a gauge on her. The only thing I remember is she's obsessed with cats, and when they're all taking care of cats, she gets mad because none of them want to sit with her. And then Marlo's like, "You just got to be calm. You just got to be calm. I don't even understand animals." And there's like 10 cats surrounding him.
Yeah, but that I can understand why you would get mad.
Yeah, I don't know. Cats are able to sniff out if you're not a cat person. They try to exploit that. But Hitch, she has moments that where I don't like her, but she also has moments where I'm like, she's kind of cool.
Sounds interesting. I Attack on Titan's one that I'm like, I'm just waiting for it to actually be over, and then I'll probably binge the entire series.
So
But
never.
exactly, that's why I haven't gone back and watched, because I could never get a gauge on when it was going to an end and when new seasons were coming and all that earlier. So
Yeah, I get it. But that's all for my honorable mentions. Good lord, what was that?
all right. So my next one and final honorable mention is Magma from Dr. Stone. So my big issue with him as a character is that he's a villain and is kind of the first, like the halfway point for the first in the first arc of uh who's going to be the big bad. And pretty much he's wanted to become the chief of the village, and he has to win this tournament to do so. And all of the main kind of protagonists want to stop him because he's a big brute. That's his big thing. And I'm perfectly fine with that kind of being his whole personality. It actually makes a good kind of halfway villain before the more brainy but still very much a physical person that is Sukasa takes over as the big bad. Magma, just trying to think of how to describe. He pretty much turns into a good guy as part of their brawn team, where he does like the hard labor for stuff. It's one of those that he just doesn't feel like he should have turned good. Should they have killed him off? I don't know, but it's just one of those. He's kind of in this weird zone because he was so kind of abusive and going to take over the village as for using his brawn and all that. It's just, I don't know. He just doesn't feel like he would necessarily fit with the rest, but they've kind of shoehorned him in there.
Yeah, I never know how to feel when they turn villains into heroes, but they don't do that great of a job of like making sure they seem like heroes. Like with Naruto, I can't see Gaara anymore as a monster. I just see him as a cool dude who did his best to change everything. But when you can't do that, it just the villain just kind of the character kind of suffers in some regards.
Exactly. And he kind of got pushed to the back where he went from, it's kind of like how a lot of Dragon Ball Z characters that started out as villains or more antagonists kind of just been pushed to the back. It's like they get a couple lines here and there, but you're no longer the focus. So go sit over there.
Somebody thought I saw a picture of official picture of Dragon Ball characters, and somebody said, Who's this blonde girl with the gun standing next to Tien? Is that someone's fan made character?" And I almost threw something.
Yeah. God, I miss launch.
Yeah, but Magma, you said, what's his name?
Yeah. He's, as I said, he's kind of the first big obstacle that they face in the series.
Yeah, I can understand. It sounds like It sounds like his development might be a tad frustrating.
I mean, in like the season 2, they save his life, which is kind of what turns him to join their side. But he still has that that evil personality. It's all rushed because it's season 1 pretty much ends with them beating him in the tournament, and within like I think the first 3 episodes they save him and he joins them. It's not a one of those like I would have maybe liked if he'd been had more time, like where he's kind of trying to work against them, trying to figure out like turning people into keeping people more on the classical, we're physical fishermen, that's all we do kind of thing in the village.
Heck, maybe had he saved them, then you could have argued, oh, well, that actually was a pretty cool thing to do. I don't know. So I'm trying to make sense of it because it doesn't sound like it makes that much sense to me.
Yeah, you pretty much have to go watch the series to kind of understand where my frustration with this specific character comes from, unfortunately.
Okay.
I think so. All right. But your final one?
Oh, this is good. If you've stuck around on like just as a subscriber or just as a first time listener, thank you. But I might lose some of you with this one. But I'll just come out and say it. Hitori Goto, or Bochi from Bochi the Rock.
Okay.
Alright, I've said before, I try to root for characters with a lot of social ineptness or social anxiety, because it's not, in all seriousness, it's not fun living with something like that. Everybody deserves to have somebody in their life, family, romantic, anything along those lines, and everybody deserves to overcome it. But dear God, they make it obnoxious with Bochi, because everything feels like a crisis, which in some cases is realistic. But then we go into her head when she's like trying to perform a song for the band, and it's just a bunch of over the top fantasies and animations to the point where nothing really feels all that subtle. So, in the case of if everything feels like a giant crisis, then nothing kind of feels like a crisis. At the same time, though, she does have moments where she gets better and gets more comfortable with the people around her and gets a bit more confident in her song playing because her guitar skills are really, really good. It's just it feels a little too over the top for me, and I think that's why I can't fully commit to this character or this anime because I enjoy the anime, but I'm still kind of like this one anime of the year, really? To each their own, but I don't fully see it.
Yeah, I can understand a character like that because it can be portrayed well, but yeah, as you said, I don't know, because there are people who go through that where every little thing becomes a mountain that has to be overcome, and from that sort of social anxiety kind of thing. But
Of course.
you just, yeah, I can kind of understand. It's kind of a mixed bag.
I'm not downplaying people who go through that. It sounds awful and I'm sorry. I'm just saying from a presentation standpoint, it gets to be incredibly over the top with Bochi. And you want to root for her, but there are times where it gets to the point where for me at least, it gets to the point where I kind of want to turn off the episode and not finish it because I'm like, this is becoming a little. You're doing a little too much. Like it's kind of becoming annoying.
I can understand that. It sounds like that because at least with some of the other series that do this, there are each kind of episode is just kind of one social anxiety either, and it may not be overcome, but it's worked on. And it sounds like this has multiple per episode, which can be a lot.
Yeah, it gets. I feel like if you want, you said before with Magma that I would understand if I watched as much of the series as you. I feel like with Bochi, you kind of just have to watch one episode and you will kind of understand what I'm going through. Because if I show you a scene and you're going to be like, oh, I didn't really care for that scene, I'm like, well, guess what? There's only about three or four or more of them left in this episode. So, yeah. But like I said, she grows a lot. And ultimately, I still argue that she's a very likable character. She's just not fully my cup of tea. Like I said, I love and hate her. Like I said, though, anime of the year, really? To each their own, but no, probably not.
I can understand that. All right. So my final one.
Please go for it.
So this one, I don't know. It's another one that's really, again, I feel kind of hit or miss based on the time period of the anime. Kabuto from Naruto.
Oh, I can't. I already don't agree with this.
Do you not like him, or do you?
I don't like Kabuto in the slightest.
I actually really enjoy tuning exam Kabuto.
Okay, yeah.
He seems interesting here. He helps support Naruto. So you start thinking that you've got this good older character who's just trying to help out his younger colleagues at this point. It's really unfortunate how fast he goes downhill because he gets beat up by Naruto in like the next arc in the Search for Tsunade arc, and it's just like he's supposed to be Orochimaru's right hand man, and I talked about how I was disappointed in Orochimaru and stuff in the past, but at least Orochimaru is always portrayed as being really strong still. Kabuto, I mean, this is like I just learned the Rasengan and gets obliterated by Naruto, and he's still supposed to be Orochimaru's right hand. It's just it that's where it goes downhill. The becoming Orochimaru is really disappointing. I actually thought about it while putting him on this list. Imagine how much I don't know. I don't want to say necessarily better, but if he could have been actually turned into like a good guy. Imagine in that the arc where they go to try to retrieve Sasuke in Shippuden. So they make it to Orochimaru's base and they uh, blow it up, and Sasuke and Orochimaru retreat. Imagine if like Yamato had captured Kabuto. So this is before any of the transformation stuff, and Orochimaru flat out just leaves him. He's like, "Okay, you're useless," and leaves him. And we get so it makes Orochimaru that much more of a bad guy. It's like, well, you're no more use to me, and I don't want to risk losing Sasuke, so you're off. And then Kabuto's could have had kind of an interesting like redemption where he's actually has to be a part here and stuff, and just we could have gotten to know him a bit more early in the series before we got his backstory and the war arc and all that. So I just think that there could have been something more with him here.
I guess my problem is that almost everybody else who's worked alongside or for Orochimaru is just more interesting when you think about it. Like I've talked about, the sound trio, they seemed kind of cool, completely wasted, but kind of cool. The sound four, or pretty cool powers, dealt with pretty handily, but at the same time, they still felt like a big deal when everybody said, "Let me take this guy, let me take them on." You and I both flippin' love Kimimaru, and I'd argue he's a lot more interesting and fun to watch than Kabuto. There are just way too many. There were way too many characters introduced to the point where I kind of start to forget Kabuto was a thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm thinking like, okay, so let's say Kabuto had this kind of redemption arc that I mentioned, that he was arrested at that point in the series and stuff. They could have replaced this scientist guy that's in Boruto that's doing inventing all this stuff with Kabuto being the one who's doing this, and that I don't know, that might make me a bit more interested, because it's like this former villain's now trying to help the Leaf and stuff. So it's just one of those. There are points that I like Kabuto. There are definitely points where he is among my least favorite characters as well. So
yeah. I guess I'm more okay with him turning good because the villain pool towards the war started getting kind of in Shippuden got crazy. Like it was Orochimaru, now the Akatsuki, now Kabuto, now Sasuke, Madara, and Obito. It got like people blame the war arc for that specifically, but when you look at all of Shippuden, it starts to get kind of crazy.
yeah, and it's just if he was just a little. I think also people don't like that he absorbed Orochimaru and pretty much turned into him in like looks and stuff. So
yeah,
if he wasn't necessarily that, there would also be a bit more to if he had remained kind of his own character. It feels like they tried to bring Orochimaru back through him without Orochimaru before they brought Orochimaru back, just to bring it back in the war arc anyway.
yeah. Heck, I'm surprised he didn't get a curse mark at some point. Because remember, Anko and Yamato both got curse marks, and then they did nothing.
Mm-hmm. So it could be interesting.
I, I will say though, he's part of one of my funniest moments because when Sai quote unquote betrays the Leaf to go with Orochimaru and Kabuto, as they're getting back, Orochimaru's like, "Kabuto, your blood type is A, right?" And then Kabuto was like, "No, it's AB." And Orochimaru's like, "Really? That's surprising." And Kabuto's like, "No, I don't think so. Anyways, let's head back." And I'm like, "What the hell was that conversation?"
That could have been the whole turning point. It could have been, well, I thought you were my blood type, so well, since you're not, go away.
That might have worked. And at that point, I thought to myself, "Dang, my conversation skills are not great, but I'm glad they're better than Orochimaru's because, dear lord, what was that?"
Yeah. So, as I said, I for some reason, I do really enjoy Kabuto being the helpful one when you think he's actually a good guy for a little while in the series. I enjoy him there, and I wish we got more of that.
Yeah. Maybe for me, it's just because he talks so much trash, but I don't think he really ever wins a fight.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. Maybe he should have stayed in that the tuning exams, and like if he like won his tuning exam match and then decided to withdraw at that point, saying I'm not ready for this or something at that point, then it might have been, at least then he could have gotten a good win and looked kind of cool. But
but considering how the matchups were, like one other person would have had to make it, but there were no other team. I don't know. That's where things get kind of complicated.
True, but it could have also been interesting, like to introduce like healing ninjutsu at that point, but him using it in combat instead. And
we're gonna talk about I want to save some underutilized jutsu or characters from Naruto. I want to save that for another video, but I can't co-sign because I don't really like Kabuto all that much, and I kind of would have been okay if he just disappeared completely, but I at least understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, this is another one that's more of our personal opinion lists. So.
Yeah, I feel like 99% of our videos are just our personal opinions, but I understood.
Yeah, but some of them are, they're true.
Sure, why not? So, we ready to close out?
Yeah.
Alright, so, ladies, gentlemen, and others, who are some anime characters that you love and hate at the same time? Some characters you feel conflicted about. It doesn't have to be somebody all that prominent, and it doesn't even have to be a villain, because that's how we're supposed to feel. And don't be afraid of saying a popular character, because Lord knows I said a few, and I'm kind of starting to realize that's my role on this channel. But ultimately, just let us know any characters that you don't really know if you like them or hate them more.
Exactly, and do you agree with our list, disagree with any of our lists? It's always our opinions, but we're interested to know what y'all think.
Yeah, I'm terrified of my last answer, but I've said worse stuff on this channel, so who knows. But anyways, we're so close to 1,000 subscribers. Please subscribe if you can, and once we get to 1,000, well, we're still talking about that. But please, like, comment, subscribe, give us some ideas and your opinions, and we will see you guys next time. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you have been listening to Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.